What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to another preview show as the games come thick and fast. This weekend we play Brighton at the Amex 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. And if you're new around here, do smash that subscribe button. We welcome all you subscribers. You help us very much. So very much looking forward to speaking to you all today. Before we get into it, I want to say a massive rest in peace to Gianpiero Ventrone, who's devastatingly passed away yesterday. Obviously very close to Antonio Conte, very close to Don Paratici as well. And obviously Conte will not be doing his press conference this weekend because of it. And it's just a really sad moment, isn't it? And you saw the floods of tributes coming in from everyone. He seemed to be a really revered character in the dressing room, didn't he?
Yeah, he seemed to get very close to a lot of the players in such a short space of time, and I think that's a testament to his character and his work and his work ethic and how good he was at his job. And it's absolutely devastating news to lose him so suddenly at 62 years of age, 61 years of age. It must have hit the club hard for sure. And he's been a long time friend and colleague to our manager Antonio Conte, even as a player, I believe. He was working with him. So I'm sure that it's going to take a lot of adjusting to, and I feel for them, everyone who was close to him and all his family. It's very, very sad news, and hopefully the players can do him justice this weekend by putting in a performance for him.
Absolutely, and obviously he's going to have very big shoes to fill for the next person that comes in and does the fitness coaching role. But hopefully there'll be a lot of tributes in the stadium this weekend to Ventrone. I know Spurs song sheets are trying to get everyone to take Italian flags, not just to this game, but to the home game against Frankfurt as well. So any sort of tribute that you can do will be widely welcome from the Spurs fan base and probably from the team and from Antonio Conte as well. So with that being said, let's get into the match preview. It's going to be a very difficult game this weekend against an informed Brighton side. It's 3rd v 4th actually coming into this game. Leonardo Trossard on the back of a hat-trick. Welbeck having a good season. Pascal Gross having a really good season. I mean, how do you assess Brighton so far this season? And what have you seen so far under De Zerbi, even though it's only just been one game?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because they've only had one game. It was a very difficult game as well away at Liverpool, and they got a really good result. So is that just a new manager bounce? Or is it kind of sometimes you can play against like an unexpected, you don't really know what to expect when it's a new manager sometimes, so that can play into your favour. Look, De Zerbi is a very offensive manager. We saw that with his offensive.
You said offensive.
I said offensive. Yeah. We saw that at Sassuolo. He was they were one of the most entertaining teams in Serie A when he was there. They scored a bucket load of goals, but on the flip side, they conceded a bucket load of goals as well. Yeah. They're very, very gung-ho, and that's how he likes to manage his teams. They're very possession-based, high intensity, like to get forward a lot. They like to play very offensive, and maybe that would suit Brighton because Brighton under Potter, in every game, I know that they maybe were a bit more defensively solid than De Zerbi teams, but they definitely like to dominate possession. They definitely like to, even against the best teams, would like to get their foot on the ball, get a bit of possession and play on the front foot. And De Zerbi comes into a team, whereas usually when a new manager's coming into a team, usually the manager's been sacked and things are a bit disjointed and things aren't going well. It's a very different set of circumstances De Zerbi's walking into, because obviously Brighton are playing very well coached under Graham Potter, well organised side who actually have very set patterns. So he actually it might be quite a favourable position he's coming into. That could be a bit of a worry for us, because if he can maybe coach that side to be a bit more offensive and create even more chances, with the way we're playing at the moment, especially away from home, you have to be a tiny bit worried about it, because we're away from home, we're not creating so many chances right now, and we're conceding a lot of control. And if Brighton at the moment, if you give them too many chances, the form that Trossard is in, they're going to be taking them. And they got players like Trossard, Pascal Gross, who's brilliant at creating chances. McAllister has had a very strong start to the season as well. He's really coming into his own. Welbeck, obviously, he's not scoring so much, but he's still, whatever you say about Welbeck, you know he's going to be a threat with his pace and his strength and his ability to run the channels, and he's going to stretch your defence and open up spaces. And especially against our back line, that's going to be a worry. So I think Brighton is going to be a massive test for us. Even though it's only De Zerbi's second game. You saw in the first game, they were 2-0 up at Anfield within half an hour. I know they obviously went 3-2 down, but they got the draw in the end, and Arsenal would say deservedly so. So it's going to be a very, very difficult game, I envisage. And I've just been reading, apparently, when Conte and De Zerbi meet, they've met 4 times in Serie A, and there's been 19 goals in those 4 games.
19 goals,
yeah.
Wow.
Conte is unbeaten, 3 wins and a draw. But in there's been a 4-3 win, there's been a 3-3 draw, and then there's been a 3-0 and a 2-1 win.
You're saying we could be in a bit of a classic on Saturday.
Potentially, if previous games between De Zerbi and Conte are anything to go by.
When you're looking at the form coming into it, we highlighted obviously Brighton coming into on very good form. Spurs not on the greatest form in terms of the last 2 or 3 games, but playing well not playing well, but getting results on a whole this season. When you're looking at the last 5 games between the clubs, a bit of mix and match there. 3 wins, 2 losses. Both those losses coming in 1-0 Trossard for 1-0 for Trossard. But when you're looking at our games at the Amex, how do you usually feel like we fare there? I know, we've won 1 and lost 1 over the last couple of games.
I think we struggle. Usually, to be honest, I don't remember too many games where we've come away from the Amex thinking that was an easy, simple win. It's usually a very, very difficult game, and I envisage the same, especially under Graham Potter. Whenever I think Pochettino lost their 3-0, Mourinho lost their 1-0, so we've had some really difficult games there. Last season we had a very good result under Conte, but then then a couple of weeks later they beat us. So they beat us at home. So recently it's been very difficult ever since they've had that more possession-based offensive style since Potter's come in. Under Houghton, I think we did okay, but since Potter's come in, it's been very difficult. So now De Zerbi's there. It's a new era for Brighton. Hopefully, we get more joy there. And I envisage if we play our cards right, there are going to be chances for us. 100%. I feel that. But it's whether we can be a bit more aggressive, be a bit more higher up the pitch than we have been recently, not be too pen back and too low block and concede too many chances. And I think we have a very good chance of winning this game. Notable there, our away form hasn't been great. This season, 1 win in 7 games away from home. So that has to be improved on. And Brighton's home form has been good. I think I just said 3 wins in their last 4 games, the other one being a draw at home. So definitely they're coming into this.
Yeah, they got a loss in there as well, but
that's in 5. So I'm beating in 4, 3 wins out of 4. So they're coming into this in good form. They're going to be confident. They're playing well. They've got good players. So it's going to be very difficult for us to get all 3 points. But obviously, if we play to our potential and we've got the better players, I think if we can just keep it as tight and aggressive as possible, there will be chances for us to exploit them, and hopefully we can take those chances, which we haven't been doing recently.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of questions within the Spurs fan base in terms of what system to play this weekend. Obviously, a lot of Spurs fans are calling for the 3-5-2 for the past couple of weeks now, especially with Kulusevski out. I think it should be a really good opportunity why we should play that 3-5-2. Against Liverpool, they went 3-4-3. If you bring up their opposition lineup, this was the lineup that they played in the last game against Liverpool. So they had Welbeck up front, supported by Trossard and Gross, McAllister and Caicedo in the middle, with Estepinian March being the wing backs, with Webster, Dunk, Veltman, and obviously Sanchez in goal. Do you expect them to go with the same formation, or do you expect them to maybe pack the midfield against, maybe because, it's quite obvious that if you pack the midfield against us, you've got a bit more success?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say because he's such a new manager. It's hard to predict what he's going to do. All I would say is in all his previous jobs at Shakhtar, at Sassuolo, he's played a 4 at the back. He's played a 4-2-3-1. So whether in the long term he's going to go back to that formation remains to be seen. But he did play 3 at the back last game, so you have to assume he's going to do it again. The funny thing is, if Potter was still there, I would say 100% go with 3 in the middle, because the way he likes to play. He likes to be on the front foot, but he's not like a gung-ho kind of manager, a bit like De Zerbi is. De Zerbi is a bit more gung-ho than Potter is. Potter likes a bit more control in the game in that sense. He doesn't like to just get all the players forward. He likes to have a lot of possession and control the game a lot more than De Zerbi likes to manage. So in that sense, I would be 100% convinced to play 3 in the middle. And I think that would be the best course of action. But now De Zerbi's there, and the way he likes to play, I'm not saying 3 in the middle wouldn't work or we shouldn't play it, but I'm actually a lot more comfortable playing a 3-4-3 in that game, especially when you look at those 2 centre mids. Caicedo's a massive doubt, so he might not play. McAllister isn't the most defensive midfielder. He could easily get out-muscled and overrun in that central midfield, albeit you need to make sure you're getting close to him so he doesn't run the game. But I think he's definitely one who could exploit defensively. And then with the way they play, if we have that front 3, as long as we can get them to link, they would have chances. So actually, the 3-4-3, I think we could win that midfield battle on Saturday. Interestingly enough, now De Zerbi's there, which I wouldn't have said if Potter was there. Having said that, we might be a bit more comfortable with 3 in the middle anyway, just so we have that extra body in there. Basuma knows the Brighton players quite well, so it wouldn't be an issue putting him in there. Maybe it would help linking Son and Kane up front with the space that Brighton would leave.
Yeah, I kind of feel like 3-5-2 is the way to go. Let us get that advantage in midfield for once. Let us have that extra man in midfield and try and overrun them in midfield. And I mean, the 3-4-3, we've spoken about it a lot the last couple of games, but it just doesn't seem to be working going forward at the moment. I don't know if that's a structural issue or it's just individual areas with overhitting passes and not getting the passing right in the final third. But without Kulusevski, it does seem to be lacking in that sense. I mean, there's so many opportunities against Frankfurt and against Arsenal where we really could have capitalised and we didn't. And without Kulusevski, I really would like to see us try that 3-5-2. Kane and Son up top with the magic that they can produce together. Wing backs being Perisic and Sessegnon. Perisic on the right, Sessegnon on the left, and then with a middle 3 of Bentancur, Højbjerg and Bissouma going back to his old ground. Maybe that should give him a bit of confidence as well, because he'll know exactly what he's coming up against.
I think the big reason to go a 3-5-2 in this game, especially as well, would be because the way Brighton like to play in their forward line, because they got people like Pascal Gross, they got McAllister, Trossard in their forward line. They're players who like to play quite central. They like to play in between the half spaces, in between the defensive midfield. So they like to get behind that. If we were to play a 3-4-3, I would envisage people like Pascal Gross playing in between the lines and getting some joy, and that would be a concern. I'm not going to lie. But on the flip side, if he either doesn't make the most of it or we can shackle him well enough, if we had 3 players up there instead of 2, I actually think we could exploit Brighton a bit more than we would be able to with the 2. The only question is whether we would get overrun in midfield with Trossard and Gross maybe come into central areas and creating a bit of an overload. That would be genuinely a bit of a concern. I just have a feeling, even if we were to go 3-4-3, Bentancur and Højbjerg are playing very well at the moment. I actually think they could be able to cope with that. Whereas before, with Brighton, the way they were under Potter, the way they were set up there, they would be less likely to cope with that in that situation. So that's the only reason I would say I wouldn't be too surprised if he keeps with a 3-4-3. But I would just like to see 3-5-2 just to see how we play with it, because I think it's a formation we need to start using a bit more going forward, and I think this could be a good opportunity to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're looking at the Brighton team, I mean, we've spoken about a couple of players who really worries you coming into this game, because Trossard and Gross has had absolutely sensational starts to the season, haven't they? And they've been hurting every team that they've been playing pretty much, and their returns have been really impressive. But is there anyone else in there that really takes a keen eye for you?
Yeah, I mean, McAllister, I think he's very much under the radar now.
And you know what, with McAllister, how we like to let teams have shots against us from 20, 30 yards.
Yeah.
We can't let him have those kind of shots because what a strike he's got on him.
Yeah, he's got a very good strike on him. He's proven that a couple of times. I think it was against, I think they played at home to Leicester. They won. They battered Leicester at home. And he had like a 30-yard strike going to the top corner. And it was one of the best strikes I've ever seen. It got ruled out for offside, for a stupid offside. And then a few minutes later, he bends a free kick into the top corner anyway. So clearly, if you have the ability to be doing that in a game, you have serious long-range shooting ability. And I think McAllister, I think gets called up for Argentina nowadays as well. So this guy has serious ability. I think playing him a bit deeper potentially makes him a bit less effective because I think on the ball he's just as effective. I just think off the ball he could be a bit of a liability potentially, but he's definitely a player I'd be worried about. You've got to make sure that you're not giving him time and space, especially in and around the penalty area. You're not allowing him to dictate the game because he's been having a very good season this season for Brighton. Obviously the back line, I'm a big fan of Lewis Dunk. I've been a big fan of his for a while. I think he's a very underrated central defender, and a couple of years ago he very nearly got moved to Chelsea. For one reason or another it broke down, but I for one think he's a very underrated player, and if he was playing for a better team I think he'd be a lot more highly thought of. Estupiñán has had a good start to life at left wing back as well. He's going to be one definitely to watch out for. He's been pretty good for Brighton so far. And obviously Danny Welbeck up front had a very good start. Maybe he hasn't been as good over the past few games, but he's had a very good start to the season in general, and he's looking like the Danny Welbeck of old a bit, and actually starting to trouble us. And I think with Dyer potentially either being a doubt or being injured, he could maybe look to be getting some joy, especially stretching our defence. He likes to run in behind a lot, and with Romero liking that front foot approach, someone who likes to spin him and go the other way, is a bit of a worry in that sense. He's not necessarily a ball who likes the ball to feet and hold it up that much. He'll much more like to run in behind and run the channels. And I think those are the kind of strikers that Romero would prefer not to play against. I think he likes the physical battle. So I think those are a lot of places we should be worried about, to be honest. But there are definitely places we can hurt them for sure in the front line. Whether we play a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, we have the forward players to definitely take the game to Brighton, and I don't think their defenders are that good where if we can isolate them in one-on-one situations where under De Zerbi we should be able to, that we can't be getting the better of them.
It's a good point that you bring up about Eric Dyer, because obviously he limped off the bus after the last game out in Frankfurt. How much of a blow is it going to be for us if he is out, and if we move in Longley to the middle? Because I assume that's what they're going to do if Dyer is out, we'll put in Longley into the middle and then Davis out on the left. How much of a worry is that for you? Because he's never played in that position for us.
Yeah, not for us. In a way, I don't think. Obviously, he's played in a two a lot in his career, so I don't think playing in the centre would be a massive. It shouldn't be a massive issue for him. The only issue really is his communication is very important in that position. Being able to make sure that the rest of the back line are in position, leading the line. These
Can
kind
he
of
speak
things.
English?
I don't know. I hope. No, I think he's done some interviews. I believe
Has.
Yeah, I think he's done some interviews. So I think he can speak decent English. But I believe the thing with Dyer is he can speak Spanish to Romero.
He can speak like 4 languages.
Yeah, he can speak. So that's a big role. The leadership, obviously, the long range passing. I do think Dyer in that position is a bit better than Longley in his long range passing, but I'm not too worried. I think Longley can do that passing game out the back. But we saw Romero how he struggled in that position, being in the central. I know he only had a couple of goes there, and Sanchez was on his right. But when we did play it that way, it was very different to when he was playing on the right. He just had a bit more responsibility in that central park, and also aerially, you need to be a bit stronger as well. That's why I would worry a bit with Longley, but I believe that with Davis helping him on the left, and he would have that protection, I think he could potentially step in quite well in that role.
With Romero is an interesting one, because obviously I think he only played one game there in the middle of a back three, and obviously it wasn't a great game. Was it against Brighton when he played in the middle of a back three?
I believe he played. I think it was Southampton.
Southampton.
I think he played a couple of games. I think
whether it be one or two games, but you're talking about Longley being able to play that position. He's comfortable in a back two, but Romero's also comfortable in a back two. Maybe he just needs to build up his communication skills, and maybe he would be more adequate for that middle role, Romero.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he played that middle role for Atalanta. So because they played a back three, and I'm pretty sure he was playing middle for them. But they were a very open team. That's the thing. Defensively, they weren't the best. And he was the one who made them a bit more solid defensively. But they were very open. Conte's doesn't like that. That's not his kind of style. So I'm
only
not saying,
against De Zerbi it is.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not saying Romero is not suited to that role and never will be. I'm just saying when he has played there, he struggled. So that's the reality at the moment. Maybe it is. I wouldn't be that surprised if he puts Romero there and Sanchez on the right, because he might think Sanchez at the moment is more used I don't know, maybe he might prefer putting him in rather than putting Longley in the centre. That might be the case as well, and keeping Longley on the left. It's rather it's a case of how ready is Davis, and does he prefer in the centre? Does he prefer Romero there or Longley? It's a big question mark.
It's a massive opportunity over these next 3 games now for Sessegnon and Perisic to really stamp their authority on the wing-back situation, because obviously Emerson being out for these next 3 games, everyone's got their reservations about Emerson going forward. But when you're looking at Perisic and Sessegnon, when they last played with Perisic on the right and Sessegnon on the left, I didn't think Perisic... I mean, I think Perisic's been on a bit of bad form recently, to be honest, but it's a big opportunity for them with 3 games now to really call that position their own, and I really hope they do, because if we can get a Sessegnon on the left and a Perisic on the right, that gives us maybe not equal threat, but much better threat than it does when Emerson is on the pitch. Yeah,
it gives us more offensive threat, and in that game against Leicester, that I think only lasted a half. I believe Sessegnon went off at half time, or did they switch? I can't remember. They
switched quite early on in the first half, didn't they?
I think they switched at half time. I think
it was even before half time, but anyway.
So from that point of view, you have to think that, it's a massive opportunity, especially more for Sessegnon, I'd say, for Perisic. I think Perisic has his role pretty much nailed down at the moment. And the reason I say that is because even though maybe he hasn't been playing amazing overall, even in his bad games, he's still a massive threat going forward.
In his bad games, he's like a bit of a liability going the other way, though.
Yeah, but even in his bad games, but the thing is with Conte, as much as he likes defensive solidity in those wing-back roles, I think if a player can get forward and be a threat, I think he's more likely to forgive being a bit of a liability going back, because there's more cover there. Then you're going to say, why is he playing Emerson? The reason why he's playing Emerson is because right now Doherty and Spence probably aren't showing that threat in going forward. If they're not going to be showing the threat, then the defensive ability.
But Sessegnon showed more of a threat.
Yeah, and he's playing it.
But I'm saying, why, if he doesn't like Emerson and he's not showing any threat, and what you're saying is that he'll favour the offensive threat as opposed to the defensive worries, then why not play Perisic and Sessegnon together as your go-to instead of picking Emerson?
Because I think he wants people when he can, more in their best positions, and Perisic is best positions on the left and Emerson's best position on the right, and I don't think long term he'll want Perisic on the right. I think he can play there, but I think his best position is out on the left. I think that's where he's most comfortable, so that's probably why he's doing that. And then Perisic can rotate, and then we have 3 right wing backs. He's got to do something with them. He can't just discard all of them.
Well, he's discarded 2.
Yeah, for now, and hopefully, look. Remember, we're still quite. We're not even like. We're about we're 8 games in, so under a quarter of a way through the season still. So it's still a long way to go, and I'm sure there'll be enough games, and hopefully, I'm not sure what game, but hopefully one of those games Spence or Doherty can have a game and see what they can do. Maybe they can prove him wrong, or maybe they can show that they've learned, and that's what I'm hoping for. But I think for Conte, those wing backs are 100% more offensive positions than defensive, 100%. So that's why even when Perisic isn't having the best defensive game, as long as he's being a threat going forward, he's always gonna select him, in my opinion.
Interesting.
And I think he has. Even like against Frankfurt, I thought he was one of the ones most likely to score. Against Leicester, he got an assist and he was getting forward really well, even though his defensive liability. So I think Perisic has definitely nailed down that spot for me right now, and it's whether who can get the other spot.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the match preview. What's your score prediction? How are you thinking the game's going to go?
I said 2-1 to Spurs in my preview. I actually think there might be some more goals in it now, thinking about it, but I'm just going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with the win. I'm hoping that our the way we set up can limit Brighton as much as possible, and I think if we can limit them, there will be spaces for us to get the chances. It's all about whether we can do the link up, whether we can get those passes off, and actually make the most of our opportunities when we get them. So I'm going to go stick with the 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I said 2-2 and predict the Prem. I want to be a bit more positive today, so I'm going to go for a Spurs win. I'm actually going to go. Having heard what you said about De Zerbi and Conte, I'm going to go for 3-2 to Spurs, and hopefully we can get 3 points this weekend. It's a massive game actually this weekend when you think about it. 3rd v 4th, 3 points between us. Obviously we're 3 points ahead of Brighton, and if we win, we can go 6 points ahead of them in 4th. So it's a massive game. Still early doors, so can't really take too much of the league position into account, but not only that, but it highlights our away form as well. And if we can win this game, then that maybe puts a bit of our away form right and puts us on the right path. So, and
also if we can win and say Arsenal drop points, all of a sudden that loss last week doesn't look so bad, does it?
Yeah.
And we get quite close to them. And we look, I think we have been playing not great recently, but you got to remember, I think we've had now 4 out of our last 5 games away from home, so it's been very difficult for us playing all these very tough away games consistently. And once we get hopefully back on home turf, the better performances and the good feeling will start to come back again. So another tough away game to come, but hopefully after this we can get some good performances at home.
Yeah, it feels like we're just getting all our tough away games out early doors this year, which is a bit crazy. I mean, we've still got Liverpool and Man City and Newcastle and a few quite tough, hard games to go, but we have got a lot of them out of the way already. But that is our match preview. Let's go and look at BetMate. Obviously, BetMate, really fun game to play. Fantasy football gaming app where you can win money as well. This week, there's £1,000 guaranteed pot. If you use our code WATTV5, you get free £5 to play with as well. Only new users can get that. But if you're familiar with FPL, then you'll be fairly familiar with this game. It's a bit of a different scoring system where defensive players actually get highly attributed with points when they make interceptions and tackles and stuff like that. So defensive players are actually really important in this game. But I've had such a good time playing this, and I've won actually quite a bit of money playing it as well. So come and take us on this week, and the pot is £1,000. I think £5 entry. But let's go and take a look at our teams. Let's start off with my team, and I've gone for Hugo Lloris in goal. Hopefully he can make a few saves, and hopefully he can keep a clean sheet. But I'm not holding my breath for that one. In the defence, I went for Veltman and Christian Romero. I think both of them make quite a few interceptions and tackles. So like I said before, they get a point each for them. So I've gone for them in defence. In the midfield, I've gone for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg as captain for the same reasons as I said before. Next to him, I've gone for McAllister. The reason I went for McAllister is because Spurs are actually conceding quite a lot of shots from outside the box, and I think he is the one that's going to look to take those shots, and he's got a mean strike on him, so he could potentially get a goal or an assist, and he'll get a few tackles and interceptions in there as well. And then I went for Kane and Son up top, need I say more, but my captain is Højbjerg, my vice captain is McAllister, and obviously the captain gets double points and the vice captain gets times 1.5, so that's my team.
I've gone for a slightly different one. My team is Sanchez in goal. I'm hoping that Spurs can have a lot of shots against him, and he's going to make a few saves. Although I don't think either team will keep a clean sheet. So it's who's going to make more saves. I'm just backing Sanchez, Sessegnon, and who have I got there? Estupinian at the back. Estupinian left wing back is going to make a lot of in tackles, interceptions on that side. I believe, especially up against Perisic. I think Perisic is going to play there. So I've got him and Sessegnon. I just think he's going to want super motivated to take his chance up against Solly March as well. So I think he can make a lot of tackles. In midfield, I've got at the moment Caicedo and Bentancur. Now Caicedo is injured, so I might have to take him out. And he's my captain as well. So he's a bit of a tackle inception machine. So I thought he was going to get a lot in this game, but I might have to take him out. Maybe put someone like Basuma in. But I've got him and Bentancur in the team. Bentancur playing quite well at the moment.
Good form, yeah.
And then I've got Son and Kane up front with Kane as my vice. Subject to a bit of change, but that's my team at the moment.
Yeah, obviously you can change your team up until 5 minutes before kickoff. So once you see the lineups, you can make a few adjustments. Just as you were reading out your team there, I was actually thinking Basuma could be a good shout for BetMate this weekend if he starts, because he's going to be going at it, I think, at 100 miles an hour if he plays against his old club on Saturday. I think if Basuma plays, I'm actually going to put him in.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about Basuma?
Yeah, I'm thinking as well, because he's, especially with the three in the middle, he's going to want something to prove. And I'm looking, I think he's gone under the radar a bit because he signed with a lot of fanfare of being a brilliant, one of the best centre mids outside of the top six. It hasn't happened for him so far, but I think it could easily be one of those players who's just taken a bit to settle in, and once he does, he's going to really show what he's all about. So I'm still very excited about Basuma, but unfortunately it just hasn't happened for him just yet.
I've got a feeling if it was any other manager, we would have seen so many more minutes of Basuma so far.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, and I think Conte, I think he knows the situation where he doesn't want to put too much risk in when we're fighting for points at the moment. He wants to keep us as competitive as possible. So he wants to he wants to go with his tried and tested, but hopefully Basuma can prove that he's could be a very valuable player for us.
All right. Well, come and take us on BetMate this weekend. Like I said before, it's really, really fun to play. If you love FPL, you're going to absolutely love this game. Taking on other fans, and I think the top certain amount really get paid well. So put your money where your mouth is and come and join us. Really low stakes, really fun to play. So get involved. But that is our match preview for the big Brighton game Saturday evening at the Amex Stadium.